Hello, it's Tara Galliano, and this is my Facebook Live. I'm trying to start this today. Maybe a half dozen, but this is a half dozenth time, and I'm offering this wonderful 4-part series with my friend Mary, and Mary's wanting to join me today as we've been speaking about all of these really important topics to make your relationship better. And we talked about boundaries, and there's Mary.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yay!
God, that was so difficult. I'm on my
I hope it
phone,
was
so
worth
you're
it.
going to move. I do too. Yeah, this is really crazy because I have tuned in before. Look at, I'm all wild. I
I
have
like
tuned
you
in
wild,
before.
Mary.
Do you? I know, I love to be wild. But anyway, we're here and we're talking about persona. Woo!
Yay!
It is such a hot, sexy way to expand your bedroom play. I love it. And it's also like a great way to be playful and really embrace those pieces. But what I'd love from you, Tara, is to talk about the psychology behind it, because there is a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to keep it simple because I'm a simple person. And I like to explain things simply. And my understanding of persona and how I like to work with it with my clients is it's about stepping into a different side of themselves. So it's not completely this activation of something that feels foreign to them, because it needs to live within them so they can access it in an easier way. And so maybe it's something that they've flirted with in the past, but they haven't been able to fully embrace. And that creating a persona gives people the permission to feel into that, and maybe a little bit not politically correct, to be a little bit risque, and to really to feel into things that they wouldn't normally do. And so and to have diversity and variety with these personas is amazing. And usually most people, I would say, feel comfortable starting with the one. And so the one that they can step into is something a little bit of a stretch or beyond their reach, but something that activates something in them where they can feel a little bit like more wild, right? Or they can feel like they can really feel into more pleasure. So that's the way I like to work with personas, because I feel like it's a gentle approach. I want people to understand that everyone can do this. It's not out of your reach, and that it
Right.
really brings a lot of excitement to the relationship.
You're right, Tara. So, I take my clients through a process when we do this. And it's not like you don't show up in the bedroom one day with a snorkel and flippers. Your lover will think, what the hell is going on?
I would be so exciting.
Right. He wants to go deep, but
yes, bring on the water.
So yes, but so this is something that lives inside you, a piece of you that was shamed or wasn't within the cultural norms, as you said, but it's a part of you that wants to be seen. And so when I start with clients, or even with myself, when I first started doing persona, which I absolutely love, it was talking with my lover at the time and saying, okay, mine was being a high-end hooker. I wanted to play. So we would first, with clients, you go into your meditation about where does this person live in your body, and then speak to that person. Why, who are you? What's your name? Mine was Ecstasy, and Ecstasy
Beautiful.
wanted to be seen. And so we would talk like, I'm sorry, and apologize for not seeing her before, and really do some in-depth work that allows you the permission to step out with it. But this is something that you share with your partner beforehand, before you start developing the character. Like, this is something I want to share. How does that sit with you? Because it can be quite triggering too. So it's a matter of taking those small steps. I mean, when I finally went out into the world with Ecstasy, where I dressed like a hooker with hooker heels and the whole thing, my lover introduced me to the people at the bar as Ecstasy, but that had been playful for months before we actually set her free.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So then we talked about, after we started developing that character, and then I did journaling on it. I
Yeah.
journaled to ecstasy. What do you want to show? What is it? What part of you do you want to be seen? What do you need too? You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain amount of me being seen as a sexual being after being shut down for so many years in police work. No, you don't look, I had to be asexual in my job, right? To get it done. But now being seen as a vibrant sexual being is different. And then taking, and it was personified. So, so yeah. And that, how do you feel about that?
I think that sounds fantastic. I mean, I love the step by step direction that you're giving people of how to work with this effectively. I really agree with the parts piece of it because I see that it's so effective for so many other ways of, I would say, resolving childhood trauma, like identifying with the younger parts of ourselves, the wounded part, and to really connect with the erotic part too. So I feel like there's so many different parts of who we are and how we can show up and express ourselves. And I love that you've got this persona named Ecstasy that really unleashes this wild side and that she steps out as a hooker and that it's safe. I think that's a really fundamental piece is that you worked on this with your lover for months before she was actually able to step out because there was
Yes.
safety there. That's huge.
Sure, because we were, now for me, I would never do it in my hometown because people know who I am, and that it was safer for us to meet on a vacation weekend together where no one knew us. But I remember when I was coming out, I said, well, I'll just meet you over at the bar we had planned on. He said, no way, Mary, you're not going to dress, because we had planned our costumes together, or our garb. And he says, I'm afraid for you to walk or not be escorted into the bar. He said, so let's do a different scene and you create that safety.
Mm,
And he held me in that safety, which was beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So after I do journaling and sink into it, and then this is a fun part. You start sharing that with your spouse or your lover. Um, and then you get to go shopping. Like, go to a thrift store. If you want to be Conan the Barbarian, if you're a man, we can go looking for furs and things like that. And that creates that playful side too, that you get to play with your best friend.
I
Yeah.
love it. Yes. And I love the process because what I find too is that the activation of the persona becomes really real when they step out into that character. And oftentimes people don't want to go there and that's okay too. It's like
Yes.
writing about it and feeling into it and just sharing and speaking about it with your lover can be everything and be completely complete. And I love that because that's really an aphrodisiac. That's a really powerful,
Yeah.
intoxicating experience to speak your truth that maybe you've never shared with anyone else.
You're right. So sitting down before, as you're developing that partner, no, I don't want to be treated like a hooker in the bedroom, but I want to get wild. So there's some things that you have to set out: your fears, your desires, and your boundaries. Like, don't you dare treat me like that. But there's going to be some part of that. This is what's acceptable to me, so that you're on the same page, because your partner's idea of what this persona may be. Because I also have a princess persona too, where I am the queen and I look down my nose. So it's these kinds of things that you talk about, that this is not personal to your partner. And then they know where the boundaries are. And as we talked in our first series, is boundaries create safety and sexiness, because
Yeah.
you can relax into the character and not be, in a position where you're offended by it.
Yeah. And so boundaries, desires, and fears really help contain the scene and contain the persona and contain the experience that you're wanting to engage.
Yes. And since you are pulling out this piece of you that is tucked away, it's hard on your system. So you're not going to go full bore all day long into this right away. It's going to be, as you continue to build this character, how they walk, how they talk, how they dress, how they interact, It's, you may only be able to hold that character in the bedroom for 10 minutes. That's okay. Because the more she's seen, the more you're able to release some of that, whatever the trauma was that caused her to go away, you know? And so it's a beautiful way to expand. And really, here's what I think your viewers will really be surprised at. Once you do it in increments of safety and proper boundaries, it becomes this experience that really floods your heart. It's
I love that.
beautiful. Yeah, yeah. So you get to be that person that's never been seen. How about the little girl or the little boy that was never seen or never allowed to be? And
Mm-hmm.
that's where this persona just takes flight, and it's just adds a sauciness to your bedroom, especially after years.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful reminder, Mary. I love that. Uh-huh. Yeah, that it is tapping into the vulnerability and sharing that, and then having that exquisite experience of opening up your heart with such love. Because that's really why we do so many things that we do in our life. We want to
Yeah.
experience so much more love.
Right. Yeah. And then at the end of any time we would step out and we would laugh. We get into a cab and laugh so hard we couldn't stand it. One time we crashed a party.
Love it.
I had on this bleached blonde wig. I was wearing in a leopard dress and I was ecstasy. And he's introducing me to this party we had no business being at. We got in the car at the end of it and laughed till I thought we were going to die. And so it's just a lot of fun, but we debriefed at the end. What felt good? What didn't
Yeah.
feel good? Honey, I felt a little unsafe when you left me sitting there. And so next time, would you be mindful of that? So you're able to then express even more and more and more as you go on. And that's the key. That communication is key.
I love it. I mean, it really is a sense of aftercare after you've had this
Yeah.
wonderful heart-opening experience, which you felt vulnerability in, and then the aftercare of how can I connect with you? How can I continue to help you feel safe in this?
Yes, yes, yes. And so it gives a whole different avenue for you to explore and enjoy with your partner.
Ugh, I love
Well,
it.
and I have to say now, I'm going to do a little plug as a coach and I think as a therapist, I think when you're just starting this, it's good to have someone guide you. You know, where you can go in and make sure all the bases are covered so that you don't try and just fly with this on your own, because it can be very triggering too if it's not done well and it's not done consciously in love.
Did you have
Yeah.
someone guiding you, Mary?
Well, you know, something I have, you know, my mentor is Jaya with the erotic blueprints, and she does a whole course on erotica. And so, and on persona. And I have access to other coaches. So when I coach somebody and they come up with something I've never come across, I have that kind of support where I can find the answer and move forward. So yeah, it's just, I've been trained in that area.
I love it. Yeah, because as a coach and as a therapist, I always find that it's helpful for me to have somebody who's done this before to coach me or to support me along the way. So I always have a coach.
You
I
know,
always do. Yeah.
all the great coaches have coaches.
Yeah.
That's the truth, you know, because you always need support, and especially in sexuality where it's different for each of us and we bring our unique vulnerable self. It's important to feel safe and that someone's there for you should you run into what you perceive as trouble, and then we can work you out of that. And everybody's different, so yes, indeed.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for
You're
sharing all of
welcome.
your wisdom today, Mary. I love this. This is one of my favorite ones thus
It
far.
is. Maybe next week or ecstasy will show up. I don't know. You
I
know?
love it. So next week is the fourth of our four-part series,
Yes.
and it's on Tuesday, and that's 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Is it 10 a.m. Pacific time? I think it is. It's 10 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Mountain time,
Okay.
and then 1 p.m. East Coast time. And for this fourth and final episode, we're going to be speaking about,
Something.
I know, something
I
good.
knew you were going to ask me, and then I started panicking. I can't remember. I have to look at my notes.
Me too. And I was just talking about, okay, so we talked about boundaries, we talked about speaking our desires, we talked about personas, And then I think we're talking about vulnerability.
That's what I was thinking too. Vulnerability. And how
You
do you
got it.
share that? You bet. So
Yes,
next week, it's a pleasure, Tara. Thank you so much. And thanks for being patient. Bye bye.
absolutely. It's well worth it. See you next
Yes.
week.
All righty. Bye bye.
Bye.